Hello everyone and welcome back to Greenpine Zoo and Gardens. We are finally back once again with our carnivore or cat house. I should call it cat house because the plan is that there's only cats that are going to move in. And I promised you guys that today the first cats will move in. Let's say it this way because in particular, I told you guys that we are going to create the outdoor habitats for the clouded leopards and the Amur leopards. Well, yeah. The good news is the clouded leopards are going to move in and they are getting a very, very nice outdoor habitat. The bad news is you guys have to wait for next week's episode to see the Amur leopards move in. Or the Amur leopard move in. There's going to be only one of them because you guys told me in the comment section in the last video that you would prefer the big habitat for the clouded leopards and the smaller one for just a single Amur leopard. So that's what we are going to do. But as I told you, bad news, the Amur leopard is going to move in next week's episode. But therefore, today's episode is going to be pretty nice because the habitat for the clouded leopards is going to be pretty nice for sure. It took me quite some time to come up with an idea what I wanted to do, and I also had to make a few changes afterwards. Right now you can see the layout that I'm creating for the two habitats that are going to be connected. So the idea was we do have this pretty old, I don't want to say historical because it's not going to be a historic building, but we do have this pretty old cat house. And the idea was that in the past of this zoo there have been three outdoor habitats for three different species of cats here on that side. So we do live in modern times, everything has changed, zoos have changed, animals do need and do get more space, and we will provide that. As you can see, we do have one small habitat on the left and a bigger one on the right side. So what I'm going to change in a few minutes is we are making the right habitat a little bit bigger. Because there is something that I complained, I don't know if it was in last week's episode of Greenpine or last week's episode of the Eternal Dunes, sorry. Or if it was just a private conversation that I had with a friend where I was complaining about a habitat in the Zoo of Vienna. So just to get back to that for a little second to make that make sense what I'm telling you right now. The zoo in Vienna has built a new habitat for the spectacled bears. A pretty nice habitat where they are also cohabited by the coatis. It's a cool, very nice structured big habitat for those bears and the coatis. But as I had a look at the habitat, I was thinking, why not use the whole space that you have in that area and make it even bigger for the bears and make it even greater? So with that in my mind, with that thought and also the complaint that I made towards you or towards the friend, you never know who I was talking to, I was thinking, why do I not use the whole space that I could actually use here in that area? So I made the big habitat even bigger and extended it to the corner of the building so that the clouded leopards do have a lot more space. And let me tell you, they actually needed that, because they complained a little bit that the space was not quite enough, or not quite what they actually wanted to have. So therefore it was a great idea to extend it a little bit, so that they do have all the space that they would need, and to feel comfortable, and yeah, to be happy in that habitat. Sorry. As I said in the beginning of the video, the original plan was to provide you with the habitat for the clouded leopards and the Amur leopards, but I also told you guys that I wanted to take my time in those future builds that I'm going to do, and not rush the things, but enjoy building and enjoy going into detail. And I think I did that with that habitat, and that is also why I didn't have a time and energy to create the next habitat for the Amur leopards as well, without rushing it. And yeah. So here you can see I wanted to have some kind of a natural like waterfall by using, so, and here's the crux, natural waterfall by using the artificial waterfall tools. Yeah. Well, but I wanted it to look artificial, to give the whole habitat a natural look, but make it look artificial as well, or create it artificial. Therefore I used those building parts that we also used for the Asian water buffaloes, for the edge of their pool, to make it look a little more zoo-ish. And I thought that would make sense if we use that here for that habitat as well. And in the end it looks pretty nice. And it looks in a way so that it would actually make sense and be realistic. Yeah, here you can see we have those two little pools, one on the lower side of the habitat and the other one right here on top of the habitat, so that we have something like a little river in here. Oh, that brings me back to something that I forgot. I wanted to have something where the water is coming out on top of the waterfall, because right now the water is coming out of nowhere, and that doesn't make sense at all. We do have something that provides the water for the habitat for the monitors, if you can remember that, a few episodes before. So I think it was it last year, or was it in the beginning of this year where I built that? So I wanted to have something similar in here as well, but now that I see it, I totally forgot about that. I hope I can remember that, and we're going to have that within the beginning of the next episode, so I will create that for sure, if I don't forget about it. Because as we all know, I am very, very, very forgetful. Doing a little bit of a decoration with the artificial rocks as well. And I tried to create the habitat as realistic as I could. So if you guys have any thoughts about that, or have any ideas what I could have done better, or what I didn't think about, just let me know in the comment section, and I am happy to think about those ideas in the next episode or with the next creation here in this park. I don't want to get super realistic, but as realistic as I can and as it is possible for my abilities in building here in this game. So for the clouded leopards, we do need some climbing structures as well. That is something that I built here. We're going to go back to that in a later stage in the video, where I actually create the climbing frames. So here's just the platforms, but the climbing frames are coming later on. Sorry guys. Yeah, I was laying down the invisible barrier, as you could see a few seconds ago. Something that you should know when you use the invisible barrier. This means that actually the animals can't walk out of the habitat if you set the invisible barriers and choose within the settings that animals don't escape from their habitats. If you just use the invisible barrier and you don't select that option, your animals will walk out of the habitat and will escape. So if you use the invisible barriers, you can only do that if you build some barriers for yourself, so that the animals actually can't escape, and therefore you have to take care of not using any pieces that are actually climbable for animals that can climb or whatsoever, or deselect climbing for those items, so that your animals actually can't escape out of their habitat. The positive effect of using the invisible barriers is also that those barriers don't break down, or you don't need a worker that takes care of the barriers, because the in-game barriers from time to time they get destroyed, so you have to have a worker that looks for the barriers and repair them. That is something that you don't need with the invisible barriers, or you build your barriers by yourself, so they don't get bad. So here's the connection for those two habitats. And I am happy that I made it big enough right from the start that the animals can use it. So I didn't have to go back into that and fix it, because the clouded leopards are able to go through that gate. And I'm also going to work on that as well in a few minutes, to have an actual gate that you could open and close. So the idea behind that is, if our clouded leopards do have babies, we could actually separate the male and give the smaller habitat to the male, so that he could use that habitat, and the female with the kittens could be in the bigger habitat on the right. So here's the part that I told you about, where I was making the habitat a little bit bigger. Pretty easy at that stage. Just take the wall and move it a little bit to the right and just extend everything else. And here we go. Just a few more rocks here and there. And I also wanted to have a door in here because yeah, this door leads to the backstage part of the habitat in our cat house. So I wanted to have a door where the keepers actually could go into the outdoor habitat without having to walk through the indoor habitat of the animals, so that they could actually separate the animals indoors and then could walk on into the outdoor habitat and prepare it for the animals or clean it or whatsoever. And therefore I thought it would make total sense if we would have a door to the backstage area for the keepers in here as well. Yeah, here I was thinking about the climbing structures for the animals. I didn't know which climbing pieces I wanted to use for the animals. First of all, I was thinking about these African branches that we do have in the game that are pretty nice, pretty cool, and definitely climbable. I think we used them for the binturong already. But I thought they might have been a little bit too small for the clouded leopards, so I was going with the climbing pieces actually for that are suitable for the animals. The actual animal enrichment items and not building pieces. So yeah, I was experimenting a little bit with those natural climbing branches, which was not too easy to get them stuck together and make it look as natural as possible. Yeah, it doesn't look too natural, I guess, but yeah, it's okay. If you look at it from a distance, it makes total sense, but you don't have to come too close to it because, yeah, it looks a little bit weird. Yeah, but just like this, it is totally okay, I think. I also was thinking about some chains to put on here where I could actually make it look realistic that those climbing platforms will be stuck on the walls. But then I thought, where should I fixate those chains? On the glass? Not possible. So I decided not to go with the chains, but use those wooden pieces that you actually could see. They made more sense to me. I also wanted to use those rope bridges because I think they are really cute. Not with the coloration, actually, I would have changed that, but they were a little bit too big, and so I thought, no, we are keeping the branch theme for this habitat. I think I never before wasted so many so many minutes and hours on climbing structures for the animals or for any animal in the game. Well, definitely not hours, but yeah, it took quite a while. But in the end I think it paid off and it looks pretty nice. So, time for some realism. Here is the part where I create the gate for the animals. The thought behind it is that, you know, we have these... I have to Google it. Didn't do that in quite some time. Oh, I don't have to Google it. We do have the switches on the inside of the house, or in the inside of the house. Maybe you can remember that. Right next to the keeper path, where we do have the second barrier so that our visitors don't get too close to the cages of the animals, we do have the switches where we can lift or lower down the gates for the indoor habitats for the animals. I did, and you are going to see that in a few minutes, I did put another one in there so that you could actually use one of those to open the gate on the outdoor habitat as well, with the mechanism that I'm building right here, with by using those tires in here and the chain pieces. And then we are going to create the actual gate, which is not that huge of a deal. And I would love if we would have the possibility, and I'm repeating myself, if we would have the possibility to have more than one gate per habitat. This would be so cool, because, hear me out, if this was possible, we could have a second gate in here for the second habitat. So we could have one on the left side and one on the right side of the habitat. And when we do have babies, we actually could lower down the gates for the outdoor habitat and for the indoor habitat as well for the animals, so that we could actually separate them. And if we want to, we could just lift the gates once again, so that the animals can get together once again, and the game wouldn't complain that we do have too many gates per habitat. This would be so amazing and so cool. I wish we would have that mechanism in the game. Maybe at some point. No, I don't think. Maybe for Planet Zoo 2. That would be such a great addition. But I don't know. In terms of realism, this would be groundbreaking. So the next part, the barrier right next to our visitors. I thought about that for quite some time. First of all, I was thinking about those steel ropes that we used in the inside of the building. Then I thought, no, the visibility of the animals would be that great when we use those steel ropes, and we want to have a very nice and clear view to the animals, and we don't want the outdoor habitat to look too old like the inside of the house. So I was thinking about glass pieces. So the idea was just part of the habitat is going to be glass pieces and the rest is going to be chain link. But then I thought, no, just do the whole area as glass pieces, so that we have a nice and clear view for the animals. And then on top of that, first of all, I used those colorable bamboo pieces, or recolorable bamboo pieces, which looked pretty nice, but made the whole thing a little bit too dark for my taste. And so I thought, no, we're not going to do that. Doesn't work for me. So I deleted everything, and especially with the bamboo pieces, they were so many that I thought, okay, when we are going to do this here and for the next few habitats as well, it's definitely going to kill the performance, and I can't finish the house at all when I'm going to continue to build stuff like this. So yeah, would have been a bad idea anyways. So I ended up with using the chain link pieces on top of it, and I think it looks okay. It looks realistic, it makes sense, and the habitat is bright enough so that you actually can see the animals pretty well. Then I wanted to have something like a visitor gallery, so I decided to have this this kind of viewing gallery here for our visitors, with a nice roof on top of it, so that it actually is a little bit dark at the area where our visitors are, which benefits the animals and the visitors, because the animals can't see the visitors too much, so they don't get disturbed by the visitors too much, and the visitors can see the animals pretty well because the reflection of the sun in the glass windows is not that bad, so that you have a clear view at the animals. Something that I definitely wanted to add is something that I did in my collaboration series Bahati Park, which I did with pretty talented content creator from Germany as well, Skilla, where we built a nice park in Africa. For the jungle house, I built those bird silhouettes for the windows that you can see sometimes on windows, so that birds are not flying against the windows. So how many times did I say windows right now? Well, yeah, that is something that I definitely wanted to add, because it also is a little tiny bit that makes the whole thing look more realistic. And now for the last part, all we have to do now is make the whole thing lush and nice and put some nice plants in here. Inside and outside, I have to say. Because you always want to have, or most of the times you want to have more plants on the outside as you want on the inside of the habitat, because the more plants you have on the inside of the habitat, the less space the animals do have, and the more complicated it is for the visitors to see the animals. So put more of the plants outside and less of them inside on the habitats. That is also something that I had to do at the end of the video that you are not going to see, but you might see a little bit of a change in the real-time part, because the silver fern that I used in the big habitat right next to the water for the animals, I had to delete it because it blocked the animals from getting to the water and blocked them for a big part of their habitat, so that they couldn't use it and they were not happy about it. So once I deleted it, they could get to the water section here, they could drink, and they had so much more space that they actually were in the green with their needs. So that is also something. The first thing you have to check when you put in the animals in the habitat is if they can use everything and if they can walk everywhere where you want them to walk. Therefore, I also noticed at the end of the video, once I had the animals in there, that I forgot the part right next to the house to put chain link fence pieces, what a word, on that part of the habitat, so that the animals actually were able to escape via the roof of our cat house. But don't worry, I fixed that as well. And here you can already see this is the silver fern, the left one that I had to delete, by the way. And here you can already see how realistic the whole thing looks, especially with the bird silhouettes on the windows. I really love that habitat. I was not quite sure in the beginning of the video or what when I started to create the whole thing, if I could manage to make it look realistic, give it a little bit of a modern touch, but also make it fit into the vibe of the whole park. But I think in the end it is pretty nice. And I hope you guys will like it as well. Yeah, the scratch tree, it didn't work, it was a little bit too big. So, and one thing I have to say is that not all the habitats are going to look like this. So we will have definitely a few different styles. I'm thinking about the habitats for the lions and the tigers that are not going to be something like those aviary parts that we do have here. We don't need that for the tigers and we don't need that for the lions. So it's going to be different habitats for those animals, and yeah, I hope you guys will enjoy everything that I do have in mind already, and I can't wait for you guys to see next week's episode when I'm going to create something amazing for our old Amur leopard, yeah, next week. So therefore I thought about it would be nice for you guys to give a name to the Amur leopard that is going to move in next week. So write your suggestions in the video comments and I will choose one of you to name the Amur leopard. So here we are at the end of the video. I hope you guys did enjoy today's episode. I hope you guys did like what I built here for the clouded leopards. If you did so, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any future episodes here in Greenpine Zoo and Gardens. And yeah, hope to see you guys next week when we are going to continue to build on our huge cat house here in Greenpine Zoo and Gardens. Bye bye guys!